All right, good afternoon. I'm going to do a mini study very briefly because it came up this week, especially while we were going over First Peter, the idea of the descent into hell and Christ preaching to the prisoners in captivity, and I didn't have time to go over it in detail. I said I was going to do it later, and I forgot, and Marianne texted me and asked if I would do that at some point, and so Marianne, Marcia, both of y'all, here's this is for you. I want to talk very briefly about the descent into hell. We get that mentioned in the Apostles' Creed. He descended into hell. And to really understand the point of this, we need to go back and think Old Testament first. The actual Greek of the Creed is he descended into Hades. Or in the Old Testament, you get that language of Sheol. We'll say that in the Psalms often enough. These are both, what they are, is they're known as the grave, the place of the dead. And the understanding of the ancient world before Christ's resurrection is that when you died, you went to the place of the dead. The abode of the dead, the underworld, as it were. And this is one of the things that already you have the idea over and against. This is how Jesus takes down the Sadducees. He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No, he's not the God of the dead, but God of the living. But the presumption was just that there was just sort of this giant holding pen that was sort of lousy. Hades, Sheol. And there might be parts of it that were nicer, the Elysian fields, if you were Greek, or the bosom of Abraham. All right, but it was still, you weren't alive. You were a shade, a shadow of yourself. This is also where it comes up in the story that Jesus tells of the rich man and Lazarus. When they die, they're in the same place. Abraham and Lazarus are in the same place, Hades, Sheol, as the rich man. Now, granted, they're not in torment. They're in an okay place, but they're still in the same general area. And so that was the expectation, because all of this is the domain of Satan. It's his kingdom. It's what he rules. All right? And so then we have the crucifixion. And we get in the creed, he dies, suffered, is buried, he descends into hell, he rises again. The descent into hell is where Christ proclaims victory over Satan. If you want to declare victory over Satan, what do? You go to the middle of his domain and go, neener, 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 I've won. You did not defeat me. This is where we get from the two passages that really speak to this are 1 Peter 3, 18 through 20. For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring us to God. Now, no, this is that whole idea that Christ is bringing us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which he went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison, because formerly they did not hear, when God's patience waited in the days of Noah while the ark was being prepared, in which a few, that is, 8 persons, were brought safely through water. So what you have there is you have the idea of what gets later on explained as the harrowing of hell. That Christ, risen from the dead, goes into Satan's domain and he brings the saints to God. So it's one of the things that's not that, oh, well, we were alive after Christ came, so we get to be with God, but everyone before Christ is... No, it's he rescued them all. So that's what's going on with that. Also, it is a proclamation to those who oppose Christ that they are defeated. The other passage that the explanation of the Luther Small Catechism, the new one, I highly recommend getting this. It came out in 17? Yeah, 2017. I actually spoke at the convention that requested this be made. They also include another interesting verse, Colossians 2:15. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. Just as a note, a triumph is a victory parade. And so this is the image where you've gone through the conquered territory of your enemy and you express that you're in control. And that's what Christ does. The way he demonstrates to Satan that Satan is defeated is he marches through hell and says, yep, you can't stop me even in your own place. When a strong man arms his own palace, his goods are safe until a stronger man comes and takes away his goods. One other thing. If you want a good example of what this would look like in film, I highly recommend, or literature actually first, The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. You have Isengard, where Saruman rules, the traitor, the deceiver, and it's full of pits, and they're full of fire and smoke, and what happens? Well, the living tree, the trees of life, the Ents come and they drown it all with water. Tons of baptismal imagery. And it's all defeated and wrecked and ruined. And at the end of that, Gandalf comes and talks to Saruman in the midst of Isengard, in the middle of it. And he has that discussion, and the highlight of that discussion is he looks at Saruman and says, your staff is broken. Your power, your authority as a wizard, it's snapped. That's what the descent into hell is. It's Jesus victorious going right in the middle of Satan's domain and saying, you're done for. So, that is a little bit on the descent into hell. And I love the religious imagery in Tolkien, in the Lord of the Rings. It's not a one-to-one analogy, because Tolkien hated allegory. But he plays on a lot of religious imagery, and he plays on it well. So that's what the little short Bible study is, and I think that'll work for the moment. So have a good one. I'm going to go get ready for Saturday night service now, and I will see y'all when I get to see you. The Lord be with you.